Okay, this is part 2 of that little landscape. And in this part here, what I'm going to do is I'm using a 6B, and I've got 3 of them here because I'm going to need a lot of them. Because this one actually, even if it's small, does take a little bit of time to do. So I want to make sure that I'm going to use a good old-fashioned pencil sharpener. Make sure all my points are really sharp. You do not want to have so I've got all pencils pretty much sharpened. And there we go. Okay. So I'm going to be using these on here. Now, I was having everybody do a value scale, which is the bottom part here, on here. And the reason why I was having to do that because the pencils are not a value. The value finder has kind of an odd black, and it's not pencil. So I was having you do that. But I'm thinking by this point, you probably are able to do this fairly easy. So the first thing I want to do when I'm working on this is I want to, before I start working, I actually want to observe look at it to make sure that what I see I want to do. Now there's 2 ways of working on this. One, I can start with the lightest values here. I can work with kind of a mid-range here. So it's kind of up to you where you want to start. I wouldn't start too dark. And the reason why is because if that's too dark, you can always be a little lighter, which for some people may work. For me, it doesn't. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here as I just want to make sure I got the right pencils. I'm going to drop one value in. And I want to make sure I want to separate these out. I already done this once, and the first time I did these, I kind of put the values in there, and I want to separate these out a little bit. So I'm going to come in this back set of mountains here first and just drop in one value. I'm using the side of pencil. We do this 2 ways: detailing, drawing. Detailing, drawing. So if you're like this, you're drawing. If you're like this, you're detailing. In my world, I don't want to detail. I hate detail, so I'm going to basically go to the side of pencil. And one thing you'll see is if I do this, I can cover a lot more area than if I do this. You can kind of see already that I can go a lot faster. This gets a lot darker, but I don't want to go dark too fast. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to kind of protect my trees down here. And what you're doing is you're thinking trees when you need to be thinking shapes. Okay, it's a shape only. Now this also, when you're looking at this, I want you to think about, when we talked about values, we talked about rotating lines, we talked about all those things, right? So all this is a black and white. And I don't want you getting so caught up that it has to be perfect. That's a mistake everybody makes, is it's got to be perfect, and no, it doesn't. I can even come down here to this one. So I'm just going to do that really quick. See how fast that was? And I want to try to keep it clean. So these areas up here, I'm going to run into problems like that, but that's okay. So now we've got that. Now I'm going to work on the second value. It's a little darker. And it's visible, so you want to go a little darker on that. And you want to keep it consistent. So if you work in areas, now when you're working from a photograph, if you draw it like the photograph, it's going to remain flat. So artists have to interpret things. So part of our interpretation is distance. How do we take this? Our eye picks this up as a lot about 15, 20 miles. But it's not really 15, 20 miles when we're looking at it flat. So what I want to do, I want to do dark down here and light up there, because the further things that get away, further things that go away, the lighter, more airy they get. So I'm going to follow this just a touch until I get ready to drop in some other values. That's going to make it seem like this goes up that way. Okay, so I'm going to come here. This actually comes down a little bit. This actually goes up. So you want to watch where you're going. Now right now you probably are not seeing a whole lot of difference. And the reason why is because I haven't went that direction yet. Now I'm going to come in here and I want to take where all the shadows are at on these shapes. Okay? And another thing we want to do is wherever our pencil's at, that's where we're looking. So like if I'm here, I want my pencil to be here. So as I'm moving over, my eye's moving with all this stuff right here now. That corner. Because there's going to be a different set of values. Of course, I'm moving this way. Now, a little trick we use when we're trying to make things look a little closer is what we use, rotating line. And that rotating line, what it does is it gives you a false sense that things are closer to you and further away. It's like looking at a brick building when you're standing right real close to it. Look at this brick building and you can see all the little cracks and crevices, the little nuances, the problems. But yet again, you stand 50 feet back, all you see is the shape. See the straight, everything looks straight and clean. You get up close to it and it's not so straight and clean. Okay, I'm going to come over here. So just imagine where my eyes are at as I'm doing this. So if I'm looking here, my eyes are right here with this. I don't want to make anything up. So this is how we train ourselves to be draftsmen. This is how we train ourselves to be, plein air painters. This is how we train ourselves to, basically to create. And this is it's the same value as up here, but a different level. So I want to follow that a little bit. I'm going to pull in, I'm going to go in here and do that. Landscapes are a little different, they're a little more complicated. So that's what you want to keep in mind. That they seem like they're not, but they really are. A lot of people want to do a landscape starting off first, and then by the time they get in the middle of it, they really don't like what's happening. So we've got this now. So I've got 1, 2, 3, basically. I don't have any really darks. So I want to establish some darks right off the bat. So I'm going to come in here. So in an area where we know it's really pitch black. I don't know what's going on here. That's the reason why. I got a texture. Hang on, folks. I got to fix that texture where it's going to really bug the heck out of me. It's going to help for the moment, but hurt at the end of it. I just turned the page. You do. There we go. Sorry about that. So now you can come in here. Yeah, there we go. That's a lot better. I can take these all down. I'm not going to work up in this area because I want to control that value a little bit. But I definitely want to come in here. Notice I changed my hands. Just remember, down here is kind of all the way consistent. I mean, I don't necessarily have to worry so much about looking as much unless I'm questioning where things are. Like I said, we're really just working with shapes versus that these are trees along a highway. It's easier to deal with on that level. Okay? Now, a little trick. Okay, I'm going to come in here. Hold on. Well, now, see, I've got to separate out this value from there. So if I go really dark here, I can come in here. I can start saying, okay, how dark do I want to go? Because this is pretty close to what I'm seeing, but we want to have those stand out a little bit in front. So I am going to drop that value down so we can kind of see the top of those trees, and you can kind of see them. So I'm going to come here and do the same thing. We see detail, but the problem we have, if we put detail in this, then it makes it feel like everything's coming closer. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put in, we're just going to work with shapes. And we'll do a pretend detail. So I want to make sure that that's kind of separated out from the back. You can kind of see it. It's very similar to this. And yet again, the more I do, and if my pencil's here, where am I looking? Right at that area here. And I'm just kind of looking at these shapes right now. I'm not attempting to again, remember we've got to work with values to separate this out from that background, because these tops are, I mean, they're darker. So once I put those in, I don't want to use my shadows, because I can come back in here and I can, you know, and I can start balancing. I can start grounding these. So the way we do that is we do a darker at the bottom, we just fade it out. It's like right here. We just take that really dark, and it makes them give it an illusion of roundness. So dark here, round here, like that. And now we can come here. I can do some different values here. I can come Da Vinci had a theory, light side light, dark side dark. So when you're working, think about everything that has to have an opposite. So if I've got a light side here, I have to do something with these trees to separate them out. So I've got to make them look three-dimensional too. So we do that, we're just making this bottom part. And you might not be able to see it from there. And I'm working pretty heavily on these. Where's my eyes? My eyes are right on this. Notice I also haven't changed my position on my hand. I'm not using it like a pencil. I also haven't worked back up here yet. So I'm going to sit back a little bit, focus on this, and say, okay, do I like what I'm seeing? Got to put a little value here. I like the way these have kind of separated out. They got a feeling like this. It's a little more cut here as toward the values. But I think that's okay. You know, that makes it seem a little more natural because the way this is cut, there's some light areas down here. If you run into a light area down here, I don't necessarily like these type of erasers because they really do a bad job. I'm going to come here. Yeah, there we go. And if we want to show some of this detail, we'll come up like this and remember, you're not trying to make an exact copy. If you want to do that, you can, but it's a lot of work, and I don't suggest it. So you can kind of see me paying particularly attention down here at the base of these trees. And the reason why is because I want to make those really dark, because when I sit back, I want them to round up. I want them to do those things. Like right here, you need to drop that back. So this really makes that tree stand out in the front. So see, there you go. And then if I need to make it be more predominant, I'm going to come in here like this. And see, that makes that tree go pretty good. Come over here, and I'm getting to these trees here. And just remember that, Da Vinci's theory is light side light, dark side dark. And on this one here, it's basically, if I'm trying to make the light hit it here, I need to have really dark here. So then that does not show anything more than that. And of course I can come here and add some type thing, and you can, like I said, you can work these to the point of photorealism, and I don't necessarily want that. All I want for you guys to do is just basically get something that's close. And we have all these things. I have all these at the classroom, so This one I may not. I mean, I brought this from the house. If I use a lighter value here, I can drop that down. I'm going to come here, and again, I'm using kind of the side of the pencil, because I definitely don't want to, and I'm blurring my vision so I can actually pull that into shape so I can see what I'm doing. And then this right here, so this has that feeling of all this landscape right there. This right here, I'm going to take away that texture. I really didn't like it. Okay, so now we have kind of, it looks pretty close, right? But I'm thinking to make this look like it goes back, it's always going to be real faded back here. That's your horizon point. So I want to come in here and I want to run just a darker value down the base of this, because this actually kind of coves that way, goes back. And what I'm doing is I'm going to, might just take those edges down. And I want to come this way. That kind of comes in here. This actually goes up. So I want to make sure that this is darker at the base and lighter here. And if I want to make this have a real impact, okay, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to look at this a little bit here. There. Now you may ask why I didn't do anything down here. One, that I didn't think it needed it. Two, I just kind of like that whole area down there being a little clean. Kind of offset all the other work we've done on it. That's a creative decision, by the way. And then what I usually use is I take a brush. So the object of the game is how clean can you make these? And the cleaner, it always looks much better when it's cleaner. Okay. So two ways of doing that. You can take plastic, you can take wax paper, put over top of that, vellum and work it that way. Or you can just do it like I'm doing and just okay, I'm going to just put that, drop that in like that, because it does have that kind of feel right there. So what do you think? This is a simple little drawing, very effective. I think that looks a lot better. This actually comes, oh, that's interesting. Like that. Like that. That. And you know, if you wanted to, you could come in here and make it a little more. Another way of doing this where you see separation is take some rotating line, not everywhere, and just go around here a little bit. And what it does is it makes it feel like there's lights and darks back there. Now here, if we want to do that, I'm going to be a little heavier with my line. And you can kind of see how that affects the drawing. So what we're seeing here is not too far off of the mix, is it? Kind of liking what I'm seeing. I've got the same feeling. I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at another screen down here, and it has that feel of this landscape. So, you know, kind of fun type thing. You can make it more formal. You can take this right here. You can actually do a lot with this. Give it more character. Just as long as you understand that back here there's no fly zone, because that actually is the furthest point back from your that's your horizon line. Well, your horizon line is right here, but back here is the mountainscape, and you want to be real careful with that. So there you go. Little tiny landscape. It teaches you values. It teaches you, you know, rendering skills, how to see color. This actually teaches you how to see color. So I'm going to cut in some lines here. And so it kind of gives that feeling of this whole thing right there. So you really, just remember you're dealing with shapes more so than anything else.